It's a yes bank maximum, the first of this contest. Oh, that is brilliant. It's a hero maximum. On the ground, down the ground, another hero maximum.
Righto, welcome back to the Maximum Cricket Podcast, episode number 43. My name is Munter, and today we have a full house with Jacko and Lugsy joining us. This week we are talking Aussie-India as well as previewing the World Test Championship final. We have the PYRANHA proposal, which is going to be figuring out just how valuable Daryl Mitchell is to this New Zealand side. It's going to be a soft drunk draft take two later on, but first, another week in New Zealand, another test in New Zealand, another incredible finish. Boys, how are the emotions today?
Yeah, it's just unbelievable. I mean, looking back at these two test wins, I suppose you and I sent some pretty interesting takes to the group chat after day one that will, I'll just walk all of them back. But
mate,
yeah,
my takes were public, so I've got to walk a few of them back actually.
Yeah, right. Well, mine were all actually glowing of how we're setting the game up, and yeah, we did it perfectly. So no, just a massive win. But yeah, I think sort of two huge skin of the teeth wins, and just shows what the side's capable of if it's playing well and picked well.
Yeah, obviously, just another very exciting day of Test match cricket, and great to see a bit of that water cooler talk that everyone wants. With the casual fan today at the hospital, sort of overheard a few people talking about this great New Zealand win, which shocked me a bit, but I was very happy to hear. So, yeah, pretty amazing with this team that we've got at the moment. Who I wouldn't say are sort of always travelling that well, but then have just pulled out two of probably our great sort of Test victories ever. So, pretty amazing couple of weeks of Test cricket for New Zealand.
Yeah, how good's contributing to amazing Test wins by first playing really poorly is always good. But it's interesting you talk about the water cooler chat, Lugsy, because I just wanted to talk about Test cricket as a whole to start with, and what exactly makes it so special. Because a finish like that, you're not talking about it if it's a limited overs game. There's something about the ebbs and flows of a 5-day test that just sort of gets the mind racing, but no way, nothing else. But yet it's not profitable. So, what is it about Test cricket for you guys?
Oh, it's just the build up, isn't it? I mean, as a player, when you play long format cricket, it's knowing that sort of something can happen, and then days down the line, results are going to get affected. And I think it's that build up, isn't it, of sort of day one, you see what the toss result is, and if you're at work, you check in here and there, and then maybe day 2 and 3, you watch a wee bit, and you think we've fucked it, and then we come back, and yeah, there's just that ebbs and flows, and just the drawn out period of time, and how long you have to play well for, or how well you can sort of not play well for, but then have one great day. I think England Day 5 was a great example of that. That just complete nature of it, that anything can happen, and you've got to draw it out, and you're sort of checking in, and it's building slowly into these epic finishes. Sort of it just multiplies and magnifies and grows as the days go on. So, yeah, it's the greatest format to play, and it's the greatest format to watch.
As we talk about sort of the non-profitability of Test cricket is what we almost talk about of what's its sort of its greatest strength. Test cricket's amazing because you don't feel like you have to be fully invested for all 5 days. As you talk about, you can sort of get a few scores here and there. You see someone's on 90 or something, and you come in for 10 or 15, and it's sort of the ultimate background sport that you can just have on for all day. You're at home, you're doing your chores, you hear something going on, and then it can build to these last couple of days or last couple of sessions that are pivotal and get everyone watching, and you don't feel like you have to see every second of it. But that's unfortunately probably what holds it back from being hugely profitable, because people don't feel like they have to go along and watch all 4 or 5 days, to be involved in that last fun couple of sessions. So it's almost, it's probably never, unfortunately, going to go profitable, but it's because it's great at strength, it's almost sort of a big weakness.
There's got to be sort of a way where it can be profitable, because what it reminds me of the most is, like Simon, you're a big you're a big wrestling fan, and it's like kind of like wrestling where it's storytelling, or it's like a really good like 5-episode Netflix drama.
Hold on, they're a script for Test cricket now, is there?
Well,
I'll tell you what, I've watched enough.
It feels that way.
When the lights went on yesterday, I thought I've watched enough wrestling to know something's going to happen here. And
just the Undertaker comes out.
I thought Jinder Vas was going to somehow have to go and roll that last over or something ridiculous.
I don't know what it is, because it's like from doing these like daily reviews, it's like every day is its own episode, and
yeah,
and you finish a day and there's a story on each day, and then it builds, and then you have the finale, which is a day 5 like we just had, or we had in Wellington. And it's like, because of that build-up, it makes that last day that much more epic. It's because you've been along for that ride.
Just on that, like, sort of profitability, I don't want to sound like any sort of expert in this field at the moment, but from what I understand, TV deals for live sport, even though viewership seems to be going down, and like America and stuff are, going up every year, like the price that you have to pay to get live sport, and that's live sport's one of the few things that still gets ratings. So from from a standpoint like that, you'd think Test cricket that can give you 4 full blocks of television would actually be massive for a TV deal.
Advertising.
I don't know enough of the ins and outs to know why it's not making more, or if that's sort of all that keeps it afloat is that side of it.
I think it's like the problem with the profitability side is like Test cricket, you're not getting new fans of cricket into Test cricket. Like, it's just Test cricket is for cricket fans. I think like if we follow the American sports, like baseball's having a real trouble of like trying to get new fans instead of like actually we are for like our own fans. So hopefully like the money in T20 cricket can just almost leave Test cricket to be what it is. And I think for like your diehard cricket fans, it is like the pinnacle of the sport. And for the people that play it, it's the pinnacle. So like, do you want to change it to make it profitable? I think we've done that enough in the game. We've got T20s, we've got one-dayers. Hopefully there's enough money there and enough sort of big series in Test cricket that you can just sort of leave it as is, and hopefully it survives.
As long as we're getting that money, because at the moment it's sort of filtering at the top and it's left to the boards, and the boards just go, well, we're not making money on Test cricket, so we won't play them, which is unfortunate. But I still think there's another way, because I think, like, I'm a big golf fan, and at the moment, like, golf's a similar sport where it's a really long form and you don't watch a lot of it, and it's boring for people that don't like golf. But they're having a real boom because of the drama around golf and the splitting of the leagues, and they've got a Netflix drama and things like that. And I just wonder if they could get inside those. If they can get inside the personalities, and there's a bit more beef between sides, and there's TV shows like,
it is pro wrestling, you say.
It's not maybe a little bit, but like just a little bit of hype between series, like like if it's one of the reasons why the Ashes is as big as what it is there's banter beforehand, there's chippiness between them, like Aussie India, there's cultural differences, there's chippiness throughout the whole series, and I think that's where you can sort of make a little bit of money. And then, like, I would need to talk to someone that knows a lot more about it than we do, but there's got to be a way. There's got to be a way. So, I mean, like, speaking of stories, I wanted to touch on Neil Wagner. He wanted to be my first sort of subject from this magical test, because it's an incredible story. Obviously, he was pretty bad in that first innings. Then in the second innings, he didn't bowl until the 21st over. Wagner went to complete the 6th ball of his 3rd over, and he had to pull up, as if it looked like he pulled his hamstring at the time. He dusted himself off. He tried again. No good. You'd think he'd go off. Nah. He went again, and he delivered that next ball at pretty much normal pace. However, Wagner knew he was done. He hunched to his knees, and he slammed to the ground in frustration. I don't know what was going through his head at that time, but it felt like this was it. Why do I have to go out like this? And honestly, it did feel a little heartbreaking that a legend like that was going to disappear from the game like this. And obviously it turned out he had a bulging disc in his back. He tore his hamstring. I still don't know how he bowled that last ball at full pace. Fast forward another day, New Zealand was staring down the barrel of another tense test finish. There's 4 balls left in the test match. New Zealand 7 down, needing 6 to win. Matt Henry has run out, coming back for the second. 8 down, 5 to win off 3. Can Neil Wagner even run, is what we thought. I thought, why wouldn't they send out Tickner instead? Can he run? He fucking sprinted to the middle for, I don't know why. I guess maybe to send a message to Kane like, I'm good to go. Next ball, Williamson hits that 4, 1 off 2. Next ball, bouncer goes through the keeper, dot ball, 1 off 1. Bouncer again, but this time we've got a 37-year-old Neil Wagner on his birthday, sprinting full tilt with a broken back, a broken hammy, throwing in a full dive to win a test for his country. If that's his last test, I couldn't think of a better way to end his career.
Yeah, lucky he wasn't run out though. Jeez. Tell you what, he gets run out there. There's fucking, why was he out there? But no. Yeah, lucky to make it. Lucky the keeper missed, I think. But yeah, I was surprised when he went out. But as you said, like that probably one or two or 3 ball innings probably like epitomised what he's done, sort of as a Test cricketer for New Zealand. And I think we saw the pinnacle of what he did in Wellington for years and years. So, you know, hopefully there's a few more of those performances if he chooses not to retire. But yeah, if that's his last act as a sort of Kiwi Test cricketer, you can't help but sort of think that's like a fitting sort of end to what's been a great Test career for New Zealand.
Yeah, I think, and as the sort of years go by, Wagner's going to get remembered as just sort of a lion-hearted player, isn't it? That's someone that really got the best out of the talent he had. Obviously, so many talented cricketers or even sportsmen in general never quite reach their potential. And I think it's probably harsh to say, but some would say he's even probably overachieved these last few years just through sort of will and heart. So as you were sort of running through that day you had, I thought, yeah, what a disappointing way to go out. But then it all come full circle at the end and just gutsing it out for a couple of balls. And I'm sure just, you know, depending on the severity of the injuries when they actually come out, I'm sure he will try and give it another crack to play another test or 2. But yeah, if that's the way he has to go out, the sort of showing the lion heart one last time, then not a bad way to go out on a victory.
I could imagine a changing room where they've suggested that Tickner goes out ahead of Wagner, and just Wagner having no bar of it, just being like, nah, just fucking try.
Just padded up and stormed out.
Try and fucking. That's why he's running.
Yeah, he's actually trying to beat Tickner out there.
A torn hemi's not as bad as everyone believes, or
yeah, I'm pretty sure the only thing, like I've done a couple of hemis, and the last thing I felt like doing the next day was fucking running.
He must have been drugged up to the eyeballs, surely.
Oh yeah,
like
he's had some pharmaceuticals. Neil, piss in a cup time, thank you.
Get this game overturned.
I'll tell you what, if that was in the NBA, he couldn't have been drug tested quick enough.
Yeah, that was wild. Because I think what was interesting, what's another wrinkle is, like, let's say that was his last test, and you've got to think, how does Neil Wagner now earn a crust? And he's got a contract coming up with Yorkshire to play in the county championship and whatever else in 4 weeks' time, and he's just done his hammy, done his back. You wouldn't excuse him to be like, I need to get ready for that, because that might be the last sort of money I can earn. And he's gone, no, I've got a chance to win this game for my country, and he's put that first. So I just think he's definitely he's built a little different, as Simon and 87 different American podcasts will point out. He is actually like built a lot different.
Yeah.
We'll touch on Sri Lanka, who were in their own way pretty special in this test. They were in front for most of the test, and of course I copped a bit of grief for some of my earlier takes. Probably day 2 was one of the more aggressive takes I had after a couple of beers. When they were really on top of us, and to be fair, I probably deserved everything I was copping. So, but I think, having seen them now up close, you realise that there is a genuine reason as to why they had a chance to qualify for that World Test Championship final. They've got a decent batting lineup. They've got Karunaratne, Angelo Matthews, Chandimal, Mendes pumped us in that first innings. But it was probably their seamers in particular that pressed me the most. Initially, I was obviously shocked that they outbowled us, which I don't think is an outrageous take to expect our bowlers to be better than their bowlers at home. Anyway,
no, it's a fair take, I would say.
It's a fair take, but I think
I'll be off this attack, but fair take.
Yeah, but obviously that was more because the New Zealand attack was so poor in their first innings. But the Sri Lankan group, they had pace, they had swing, they had accuracy, they had a bit of bounce, a bit of nibble. If anything, they probably should have bowled more pace than spin on that last day. Boys, what's your impressions on Sri Lanka?
Impressive, really. I suppose they sort of went like it's easy for those teams to come here and get on a green seamer and be like, "Fuck, this is the polar opposite of what they play on." They've always got that excuse in their back pocket that like, "Fuck, it's going to be hard," but oh well, we gave it a good old try. But shit, for 9 on 4 days, they were just as good, if not better than us. Probably some rear end action from Matt Henry and Southey and Henry just carrying the team in our first innings is probably the only thing that saved us. Sort of in hindsight was what kept it close enough to sort of chase on the last day. So yeah, I think they were ready to ambush us and nearly did. So yeah, there's a reason they're at 51% or something for this World Test Championship cycle. And it just shows when they play away from home and they play like this, they're always going to be dangerous because they're always bigger at home in their own conditions. So, yeah, impressive to go overseas in foreign conditions and play like that.
Yeah, I thought, really impressive. Right from day one, managed to see most of their innings on day one, and Mendes especially, just out the gates. I thought, hold on, England's back for a third test, aren't they? they just smoked it from word go. Angelo Matthews, every time I seem to play an innings, I find it either like really, really scratchy, or just completely fluent. And like, he's like, when he gets going, just absolutely world class. And then, I think probably more impressive than anything was their bowling, especially in that first innings, probably just, 1 or 2 wickets away from obviously completely sort of finishing us off. And if we had got rolled, then maybe we don't come back and win that test at all. And then, a few more questions about this Black Cap side. But, no, really impressive overall performance. Probably just a couple of poor sessions, and it's cost them the test. And a quick shout-out to Russell Arnold on comms. I thought just brilliant, really holding his own on comms, and a couple of good jokes from the big fella. So good to have him back on comms in the country.
He's got Ian Smith vibes for me, like the Sri Lankan Ian Smith. Like,
yeah,
he definitely defends his own. He doesn't mind jabbing back at the host broadcaster, and obviously you can tell he's a fan of his side, like which I respect.
He's not loud. He's just quietly subtle with a couple of jabs back.
I was pretty impressed. Yeah, Sri Lanka was good. Like, I think if anything, they potentially could have been a little more aggressive when they were on top. They could have, if they had taken those, like when they were on top, like with the bat in the first innings, and like you guys said with the ball in the first innings, and they really put us to the sword. I don't think we're coming back. Like if they push on and get to 500 with the bat, and like you said, if they skill us for 200, that's probably game over there. Having said that, they were probably unlucky with the rain. I think that definitely hurt them more than it hurt us.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I definitely felt more confident with a shorter chase. With less overs for no. Like, it doesn't make any sense. It should be, in theory, harder to score the runs, but I just felt like if we were going to dawdle around at 2.5, 3 and over, it's just going to allow Sri Lanka to really build some pressure. But it was just hard for them to take like 10 wickets. But to take 8 wickets and 50-odd overs, I think is a credit to them. And, the second test should be quite good because definitely the most prepared. Well, I would say even subcontinent team that I can remember since this Black Caps team's been any good.
And I mean, normally they come in sort of September, October, and they get chucked down to Uni Oval, and sort of they're in like a 25-degree difference from their home country, and they're sort of in beanies and like about 8 jerseys. So, yeah, good to see them here in Christchurch, and yeah, fucking give it to us, really.
How good's just a sly shot at Dunedin for no reason there? We drive by.
No, not a shot at Dunedin.
Used to live here.
Not a shot at Dunedin. I'm just saying, we normally send them there where it's cold in September.
We've actually had a delightful summer, man.
100%. Should we talk about New Zealand? Because that's what we're really chomping at the bit. Let's. I want to start with Kane Williamson. I just want to throw out some stats at you after his 27th Test 100, 120 odd not out in that fourth innings. He now has 7,909 runs at 53.8. He now has a higher average than Sachin Tendulkar. The only players to have more test runs at a higher average are Jacques Kallis with 1,289 runs at 55, Sangakkara with 12,400 runs at 57, Steve Smith with 8,792 runs at 59, and Garfield Sovers at 832 runs at an average of 57. He averages 79.12 in test wins, second behind only Don Bradman. As I said, he has 27 test hundreds and 93 test matches. The only person with more hundreds and less test matches is Sir Donald Bradman with 29 and 52 test matches. Lugsy, we touched on it a bit last week with the Kane Williamson versus Sir Richard Hadlee conversation.
Great timing, yeah.
Another rung on that ladder.
Yeah, I thought as we sort of talked about last week about what it's going to take for him to do it, and we said there's probably like a couple of sort of magical markers he's going to have to hit. And I think sort of that, as we say, that 10,000 runs, that 30 centuries, that's going to be a couple of big ones. If he can knock that down, if his form continues, you'll be fairly confident he can do. Then yeah, of course the conversation's going to get funner and funner, and yeah, I like to have it because it's a bit of fun to talk about.
It's going to become a LeBron MJ debate, isn't it? There's going to be fucking all the old heads going, oh, but you didn't see what Richard Hadlee did. Like, yeah, but fuck, Kane's pretty good. I think like we are rightly quite in the Daryl Mitchell hype zone at the moment, but fuck, what Kane did in that chase is like unbelievable. There was a time where when he was I think he was striking at like 50, and I was like, fuck, if this gets close, I wouldn't have minded him just striking at 55. And for him to get it right down and time it like that, like that will go down as one of the best fourth innings run chases, maybe like right up there. And in terms of like a solo person almost getting us there, for Kane to get there. When he lost Daryl, it would have been easy to be like, fuck, I'll let these guys slog. But he just kept it ticking over, kept it whittling down, getting that equation right where he wanted it, where he knew he could get us home. And yeah, just absolutely unbelievable. And I think it's going to be him and Sir Richard as your two goats. And yeah, we'll all shout Kane, and we'll yell at old people because they'll all shout Sir Richard, I reckon.
And then there'll be some youngster in 20 years and they'll be telling us it's him, and we'll be like, nah, it's Kane.
Yeah, exactly. The cycle will continue.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's
might be wee Harvey.
Wee Harvey, yeah. Wow, yeah, that'd be nice, wouldn't it?
That was the best ever. Harvey. You should have seen him early on. He was scratchy pal.
Yeah, can't play one days. But like, I mean, that's two back-to-back important hundreds, like back against the wall, one following on, one in the fourth innings of a chase. When he just gets in that zone like that, it just feels like he can't be dismissed. It doesn't feel like you can breach his bubble, like he's in his wee zone. And I think now with Coley getting that other 100, I think now's as good a time as any to start reopening that Fab 4 debate, as they're all just starting to get back into form, which is nice to see. Because I guess when we're comparing Kane to Sir Richard, one of the things against Kane was is he the best player of his generation? And I'm not saying he's the best, but I think he's definitely. I mean, it's between these four, isn't it? So, so I think I've got here. So here's your Fab Four. You got Steve Smith, 96 tests. As I said, 8,792 runs at 59, 30 hundreds. Joe Root, 129 tests, 10,948 runs at 50.22, 29 hundreds. Virat Kohli, 108 tests at 8,416 runs at 48.9, 28 hundreds. And of course, Kane with 93 tests, 7,909 runs at 53.8, 27 hundreds. Boys, if you're ranking those four in Test cricket, how do you see them?
It is tough. It is tough. I think you're never going to be right and you're never going to be wrong, I think, when you're sort of picking these four. For me, I'd have Smith 1, Kane 2, Root 3, but then you've got to put Kohli 4, and that's tough too. It's almost an impossible power ranking, isn't it? But, I mean, I sort of not discount Joe Root, obviously, but he's played the most tests. His average isn't the best, and he doesn't have like 30 more tests. He should have well into the 30s, hundreds now. So I'll probably have him 3 or 4. And then, I think Kane just gets Kane gets almost forgotten and as the big three because we're not the big three associations, but fuck, he's right up there for me.
Yeah, I think that's, let's just try and not rank these at this time. It's an idle Tuesday afternoon. I think it's just very hard with because the biggest thing that sticks out is we don't play as many tests. And obviously a lot of those Ashes tests, they're hard test matches, but that's what brings out the best in big players. So you'd think Kane would thrive in that area, that arena. So I don't know. It's very hard to rank with how much less cricket we do play. Obviously Kohli, it's hard to put it there because I love Kohli and I think he's probably, number one white ball player, potentially of all time. But I think he probably goes 4. You could be right. Root 3 maybe, although he's had some. They've all had these sort of purple patches.
Yeah,
it feels hard to rank them low because you know what they can do at their best. But I'll go just for this Tuesday. Smith, Kane, Root, Kohli.
I think Smith has probably got himself on a rung by himself, just from his ability to do it in all different all different conditions. I've always had Kane at 2. I think Joe Root is slowly catching up, but then Kane's in another purple patch where he's sort of just ahead of Joe Root. And then Kohli, I guess, probably a victim of playing in India over the last 3 or 4 years. Yeah. I've got a interesting stat between this 100 and the next 100 for later on, but his average is really taken a hit from playing in India where it's almost impossible to bat. So, I mean, that's tough, but he's still got an incredible record. And like you said, Lugsy, when he's on, it's just there's something about Kohli when he's on. Like it's a spectacle unlike the other 3.
I think it gets wrapped up in that crowd as well, though. Like that 100 he got just the other night, and the crowd going just crazy. Like it just gets you so hyped. Like sort of, I don't think India's fandom, even in like an Ashes, can really be matched. It's like a different level of love and passion they have.
Yeah, it's different noise, isn't it? And I mean, what almost discounts Kane is he does it in front of a sedate New Zealand crowd who sort of clap
and doesn't celebrate.
Sheepishly takes his helmet off and then sort of puts it back on, and it's like just looks like a day at the office for him. And the other 3, there's a little bit more pomp and ceremony, but yeah, Kane's just ability to do it and just show up when he's in these purple patches, as you said, just seems like runs aren't going to be a trouble, and he doesn't look like getting out either. So
those last 200s, I think when a few years down the track, we might actually realise how special they are. Like I think because it's happened so recently and back to back, I struggle to think of any hundreds that are more important than that, apart from like Steve Smith when he came back in the Ashes 2019, some of those hundreds. But it's just, it's special stuff, and there's no real wrong answer. But Piranha Grip Sops non-slip grip technology designed to minimize slipping in your shoe and maximize output. Designed and tested right here in New Zealand by professional athletes. The choice of sock for several black caps and white ferns, as well as the number one women's bowler in the world, Sophie Eccleston. Performance, quality, and style. And I'll tell you who has all those qualities right now. It's Daryl Mitchell, who our Piranha proposal is centered around today. Grab yourself a pair of Piranha's latest range by using the code TMC20 to get yourself 20% off today. Boys, before we get into the actual proposal, I just want to list a few of Daryl Mitchell's test scores since the second test against South Africa on 25th of February 2022. 60, 24, 13, 108, 190, 62 not out, 109, 56, 42, 3, 6 not out, 0, 57 not out, 54, 40 not out, 102, 81. That's 980 runs at 70. In that time, no one has more runs at a higher average than Daryl Mitchell in world cricket. He now has a career test average of 59.04. That is the 8th highest average in test history. That is quite a run that we're seeing from Daryl, and this is not a small sample size anymore. So I think it's fair to say Daryl Mitchell was pretty valuable to what the Black Caps are doing right now.
Not a bad sample size either. Like, we're talking South Africa, England, England here, sort of Sri Lanka playing really good cricket. Like, fuck, he's doing it against really, really top level competition as well.
He thrives on that stuff as well. He tends to thrive when we need him the most. Like, it's in that first innings, that 100. Like, without that 100, we are done. That test is over.
Toast.
And then that 80 odd, like, it's a shame he didn't get 100 because it would have been one of the great tests just having that three figures. But just the way he took the pressure off Kane, like when he came out at 90 off a 3, we're kind of backs against the wall sort of thing, but he, first ball comes down the track, 6 runs, sending a message that we're going to be positive. And I think he took the sting out of the attack quite quickly.
Yeah, could have easily come out and been like, right, let's bat 10 overs so that we definitely don't lose, and then try again in the chase. And he's just come out and blazed it.
Yeah,
I think it's one of the things that makes cricket a very odd sport there, because you get the sense he was pretty happy when someone got out there. He charged out there like, this is my time to do a job, which you wouldn't see in many other sports. But, yeah, his temperament at the moment, completely in control of his own game, and just the trust and confidence he has, that first ball down the wicket. And then when he got in, he was basically in sort of one-day 2020 mode, the way he was moving around the pitch. Looked like he was just confident he could play any shot and run a ball with ease. So, yeah, he's pretty special at the moment. It's, as we've talked about, probably talk about a bit more, but it's a weird state that this New Zealand team's in, because we've been in trouble a fair bit. But between him, sort of Kane, Blundell, Conway, we've got sort of 4 players I really have a lot of faith in at the moment.
Well, we'll touch on it a bit later on when we're talk about some questions on the side, but we've actually got 5 of our top 6 are in the top 20 ICC Test rankings. There's no surprise as to who that one person isn't. But I would say Mitchell at the moment he's I know what Williamson means to the side, but there's an argument that Mitchell is the most valuable black cap batter in the side right now. Just the way he bats. And I said to you guys, I think he's a top 10 batsman in the world right now, and I don't think that's an outrageous take. But I thought for the proposal, let's see how valuable he is. We're going to stack him up against the world's best. Jacko and Lugsy, you're going to be New Zealand GM, which we probably need, to be fair. We need a GM, but that's neither here nor there. And I'm just going to throw batters at you. And you tell me if you would accept a straight swap for Daryl Mitchell.
Straight.
Okay, so I'm going to start with the number 1 ranked batter in the world right now, Marnus Labuschagne.
Now we've got Kane at 3.
Okay.
I'll keep Daryl, I think.
It's fair. This could be very tough on Daryl in the end here, because you're going to name all the best, and it's pretty hard not to take them. And then it might seem like we're not rating Daryl highly enough. But
no, but you should. It should really.
if it fits into our sort of like this New Zealand team right now, then yeah, I guess we're happy with Kane at 3, aren't we?
I think looking at the top four, I'd probably you'd probably take them over Daryl, but then I think after that it gets really interesting. So Steve Smith,
have to take him probably.
Probably take Steve. Yeah,
we've just said he's the best batter in the world. So
yeah, it's hard not to take him. Joe Root,
probably got to take Joe Root, but it's closer than you think.
Closer than you think. Bubba Azam.
This feels really mean to Daryl. Just knock him down a peg.
But the fact that this is not a straight. This is not a straight.
Yeah,
it's not like this is ridiculous. Like I think these are conversations.
Yeah. The other thing is with some of these players is I think what's perfect about Daryl is he's perfect for our side. So like, although if you were playing sort of I guess neutrally or overseas, like you're going to take Bubba, but if you're talking about a lot of your tests being over here, I mean, I'd have to really weigh that one up.
Okay, here's another one that I think's interesting. They bat in the same position. Travis Head, number 5 in the world.
See, I'll take Daryl. You've just given me his stats. No one's got better stats.
I'd take
Travis
Daryl
Head's.
as well.
Tell you what, Travis Head playing some dangerously good cricket though.
Yeah, I mean, they probably. To be fair, it's one of those ones where New Zealand says no and Australia says no.
Yeah, probably sort of two of the absolute form players. Well, not so much, form players, but just sort of burst on the scene the last sort of 18 months.
Feels like a very neutral swap, doesn't it? Like if you swap them, it doesn't feel like the net result would change. It's just a different, like, we're backing our horse, they'll back theirs, but I don't think either team would be better or worse if you swap them.
Okay, here's one which might raise a few eyebrows. Virat Kohli.
Are we talking Test cricket or all formats?
Test cricket.
Daryl. We need a
I'm
number
with
4,
you.
though.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
I just can't get over those numbers since that second South Africa test. Like, that's astonishingly good.
And they're in all formats. They're in all conditions.
We're not talking bully ball like New Zealand always being on top here. We're talking New Zealand in a lot of pretty tough situations where we've needed him. Like, he basically carried us in England.
He was huge in that England series.
Along with Kane, sort of carried us here. The idea of having Virat even for one test in New Zealand colours is gets the juices flowing. But let's stick with Daryl.
Yeah. Okay. Right. I think we've found our point there. So I think that just shows how good Daryl Mitchell is playing at the moment. That these are all timers we're throwing out there, and you're at least. I think every single one of those players, you're having a think. Like you're definitely thinking about it.
There's no automatic, we have to do it sort of thing. And that, as you said, is an absolute testament to where his game's at and how well he's batting.
Right. Okay. So we'll move on now. I think we've talked a lot of positive cricket, but I think the result potentially has papered over a few cracks that are starting to appear and get a little bigger. And I just want to touch on how far away this side is from being on the level of the big three. Because I think that's probably the most frustrating part for me is the actual, we've got talent. We've got really good players. Like I said, we've got 5 of our top 6 in the top 20 of the Test batting rankings. Like, we should be dominating with the bat if that's the case, but we're not. So I don't quite understand what's missing. So I think there's a few questions where I think that need to be answered before we do become like a really good Test team again.
Trent Boult.
Yeah, Trent Boult. I think that's
Trent Boult, Kyle Jamieson.
The first one, who bats 4?
I think there is solutions there. I'm going to say I love Daryl at 5, so I don't think putting Daryl at 4 is the right option. I think there's just that. Getting 3 down early just seems to make him rise, so it makes him better for whatever reason. I love Daryl at 5, so I'm going to rule him out to bat at 4. I think Conway bats at 4, and I think we look at Will Young opening. That's sort of my order fix. I think, as we've said sort of privately, you just get too many good balls at the top. And it just feels like Conway, I don't know, he seems to not quite, that real good innings has been broken up by just getting some good ones. I think your best players bat 3 and 4. We saw it with Roscoe for years and years and years. And I think, unfortunately, Henry Nicholls just hasn't stepped up to bat 4. And I think Test cricket is so hard and everything is under a microscope so much. Just having one or two guys not in the right place or sort of not playing well can be what makes you one of the best Test sides in the world to what we've seen from New Zealand over the last sort of period, capable of brilliance, but also sort of capable of that first Test or the first against England and the first couple of days against Sri Lanka. So, yeah, I'd like to see Conway bat at 4 and Will Young to open. I think Will Young's sort of proven he can do it as an opening bat. That would be my sort of way to fix the order. And then I think you keep your Blundell and your Daryl at 5 and 6 where they've been so successful.
Yeah, the idea of having Kane, Conway, Mitchell, Blundell to me is very appealing. Your 3, 4, 5, 6. That's a big 4 I've got plenty of faith in. Obviously, that creates. We're just sort of one spot away, aren't we? I think Tom will keep his spot for a long time, and I'm hoping form isn't too far away for Tommy Latham as well. It is the big. We're probably no further along than we were last week when we were talking about this. Unfortunately, sort of Henry Nicholls came out yesterday. Tried to look like he sort of, I wouldn't say completely hit out, try and play maybe a little bit looser. Still, I thought he looked a bit better, but not by no means completely comfortable out there. I wasn't too shocked when he went out. I think it is probably time. Obviously, the big issue here is Conway being probably our best opener at the moment, or most inform opener, which it's hard to change that again, to make him change posi, but I think it is time to change that and have that real set 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we've just got to look at our best option up top.
It comes down to, for me, what's coming through. Because I think, obviously, the Henry Nicholls, I think he's a good player, and I think he was a good Test batsman, but I think that average has definitely plummeted way too much. And he looks a shell of himself. So I think he needs to go back down to Plunkett shell, score 1 million runs, and then when the next opportunity comes, he'll be ready for it. But I think it depends. I think Conway can bat 1 or 4. Like I said, I still think if we have a good ready-made opener to replace Conway, then I think Conway should bat at 4 because there's too many times where he's getting an unplayable delivery and he nicks off early, and he's got to and I just think you're going to get less of that at 4. So I think if someone was going to open, I'm not sure about Will Young at opening. I think if he was going to play, I'd like to see him at 4, where he's probably more natural. I think he probably gets the next crack. I don't know if it's going to last long, but I think he probably deserves the first crack. I think if I was looking for another opener, I'd look at a Rachin Ravindra, someone that's 23, 24. He already averages 39 in first-class cricket. His average is only increasing every year. He offers some pretty handy left arm orthodox, which could solve your all-rounder problem potentially. And I think it's probably time to just sort of let him build for a bit longer. The other options at 4, you're looking at Tom Bruce, who I found out averages 47 in first-class cricket, which is really, really high.
Averages 4 for Burnside, but that's a different story.
Has he played for Burnside?
Yeah.
Not well, though.
Not very poorly. He's not coming back.
Yeah.
Twos.
Yeah.
Twos,
work your way back up. Yeah.
Yeah. The other person is obviously Glenn Phillips. He seems to be knocking on the door. Everyone seems to love him. I think talent-wise, he's electric, and he definitely, if we were going to be a little bit more aggressive, he's someone you'd want. I still think Daryl could bat 4. I don't see why he can't bat 4. I understand the argument of keeping him at 5, but if you were ever to move him to 4, it would be now when he's in the form of his life, rather than what they did to Nicholls, where they waited till he was on the downslide. Yeah, I don't know. Then you could potentially bring in Phillips at 5 or Blundell up to 5. Yeah, I guess that leads to the next question, where Michael Bracewell, has he done enough to be an all-rounder, or do we need to look at other options?
Sort of what we're doing with the Bracewell selection is buying a ticket to the Mitchell Santner sort of show, which we've seen before, of trying to have a really successful white ball all-rounder and then just putting them in the test side. And I think there's a little bit more sort of skill involved, especially in red ball cricket, of being a spinner, because there's more, like, your fields are generally a little bit more attacking and guys are sort of not looking to sort of hit you out of the attack as much. And I think there's just a little bit of something there that you probably need that all-rounder to either be a seam bowling all-rounder or a spin bowling batter, like where spin bowling is their first skill set and then they're a good enough batter to bat 7, not a batter who could bowl and has improved their bowling. That makes sense. Or you've got to go seam bowling all-rounder and pick a genuine spinner, would sort of be, I think, the direction we need to go in, because I think what we've shown is how key having a good spinner is to a test side. I think if you look at all the best test teams in the world at the moment, that they've got a spinner that they're really confident in that can do a job days 1, 2, and 3 and win them a test on day 4 and 5. And in the nature of the team we pick, we're asking our all-rounder to do that, and their best skill set isn't as a spin bowler. So we're sort of setting them up to fail a wee bit there, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think to summarise that, Alfred Jackson is no. He's probably not up to it at the moment as a spin bowling option. And I think, as Jacko pointed out towards the end, it's probably just a selection issue more than, like, I feel a wee bit sorry for him, because he's really worked really hard at his bowling to even get it to a level where, they're handy overs. I don't think even he would have thought he would have been asked to be like a first choice or an all-rounder in a test side. So, yeah, I just don't think the bowling, I mean, I'm a huge fan of his, especially his batting and his place in the white ball size, but I don't think it's even sort of close enough to be good enough at that level in test cricket.
There seems to be a disconnect between selection and, like, the captain actually trusting him to bowl, because he's been asked to be the sole spinner and he's bowled 11 overs in the whole test match. So he's not trusted by, and that's with Wagner going down in the second innings. Like, they bowled more overs from Mitchell. So you've got to wonder, so if he's not bowling, they're picking him as a batter, and there's better batters out there, if you know what I mean. So I just think, like, if you're going to play an all-rounder, like a spinner, they have to bowl, and you have to just back them to the hills like Stokes did with Leach, and eventually they're going to get better. He's not going to get better bowling 11 overs in a test match.
No.
And just bowling like the odd over before the drinks breaks and it sort of carry on. And I can't imagine it's doing him any favours with the bat mentally. Whereas in the white ball side, he knows his role. He's one of the first picked. With the all-rounder, I think that Mitchell's shown that he can give you enough overs if you need it. Pick your best spinner, pick 3 good seamers that complement each other. Southey, Henry, Jameson if he's available. Tickner showed enough that he's got potential. He still needs to work on his new ball bowling. So potentially like a Doug Bracewell will come into the next test. But Tickner's got enough there to think that he can do a job. Pick 4 best bowlers, Daryl Mitchell, your all-rounder, and then pick the 6 other best batters plus Blundell.
Yeah, and I think, like, the best way I've ever seen it explained is how the Aussies pick their test side if you watch the first season of the test. And it's just what you said. They pick their 6 best batters, and if one of them can bowl, like Cam Green, perfect. One of them can't. Oh, well, you've picked 4 bowlers for a reason. You pick your keeper and you pick your 4 best bowlers. And I think we need to sort of get back to a simple mindset of picking the test side, because, like, at the end of the day, you've got to have your best 11 cricketers in the country out there to do a job over a long period of time. Yeah,
100% agree. I think, as we've talked about in the past, it's very easy to fall in love with the idea of a spinner. An all-rounder, because it just feels like you're getting a bit on each end and your side just gets better balanced if you can have that option. It's sort of afford you to play an extra bat or an extra bowl, and it balances the side. But it's got to be an all-rounder that is actually like going to do the job and can, as you say, can be trusted to actually perform both roles. So there's no point having, a batter who's batting 7 or 8 and the bowler that's bowling 5 or 10 overs. That's, instead of picking sort of an all-rounder to balance the side, you're sort of actually breaking it up more than anything because he's doing sort of neither of either role. So I think, so change it up in a bit of a more simpler tactic.
Last question. Who's the coach?
Well, going forward, or who's coaching this side at the moment?
Well, we know who's coaching the side forward, but is he the right man? And if you could have anyone, who would you have take over the Test side or all of it?
Brendan McCullum.
Here's my theory.
Right.
We've just had
as a coach yourself.
Yeah, no. Look, we don't play many tests, so I think someone to coach the Test side only would be perfect for those high profile guys in the IPL because there's a low workload. Stephen Fleming's been in the comm box. He's seen era after era after era. He's talking to the guys. There's no way if he was asked to coach the Test side and he could fit it around his IPL commitments. There's no reason why he can't do both. If it's just the Test side, let's make it happen.
Well, yeah. I mean, I definitely think it's time where we need a change in the role in terms of splitting it up. If Flem, if you're out there and you're listening, like I'm sure you are,
friend of the
please
show.
come on board. That would be absolutely wonderful to have Flem on board. You can tell in the comms and obviously from his captaincy, still obviously keeps involved with a lot of cricket. Is completely up to date and sort of knows the tactics. So I'd love to have him on board.
I think the role needs to split. I think there's too much demand over sort of doing them both. And I think as we've seen over the last sort of 18 months, a lot of these series have gone, well, Steady's not going to be there, and then the bowling coach is doing it, and then it's like, well, actually, if you split them up, you just get one message all the time for each squad. I think England's already shown how successful it can be because it is such a different style of game. And I mean, for a guy that's basically had an open checkbook from Chennai, it seems, since day dot, and gets to run the Stars, like that's two pretty big franchises in two of the biggest leagues in the world. He's obviously got the mind for it. He's obviously got the cricketing nuance for it. So, yeah, it's probably time to have that chat after the World Cup and say, you can't coach forever. Time to split it up. Time to get some fresh ideas, and really retool for this next World Test Championship cycle, and hopefully go back to the top.
Okay, right, boys. Let's do Aussie India, which finished up India winning 2-1 after an incredibly boring fourth test. Gee, that was flat. Khawaja, 180, who might just be the best test opener in the world right now. Cameron Green fulfilled his destiny by making his maiden test 100. Australia made 480 with Ashwin taking 6 for 91 off 47 overs. In reply, India batted forever. Shubman Gill, a beautiful 128, and the king, Virat Kohli, after 1,208 days, that's almost 40 months, 3.5 years. We are talking, he made his 28th test 100. To put into context how long this drought was, Kohli's currently averaging 48.93 with the bat. After he made his 27th 100, he averaged 54.97. So it begs the question, why the fuck do they keep playing on these dust bowls?
Well, because they want to win series.
Fucking Butler's arms getting roads after roads because they want to boost up his average.
As soon as the series
getting the opposite.
Yeah. As soon as the series in the bag, fuck, here's your road, Virat. Like, fucking hell. I reckon the one they've just done is more of a doctor job than day 1 and 2 in the fucking first and second test. They have just gone, right, this is in the bag. Let's make this so flat that no result was possible.
I would argue those pitches kill Test cricket more than those 3-day pitches.
Yeah, give me 3 days over that.
Because people, at least in those dust bowls, at least you're going to get a result to keep people interested. It was a bit of just touching on the series. It was almost, I don't know how it got sort of received in Australia, but it's sort of the momentum of that series, because I was quite fizzed up for it going in, and just Aussie going down 2-0 at the start sort of killed it a bit, I think.
Deflating.
Yeah, very deflating. They probably deserve a bit of credit, though. I think, obviously, that second test was actually, they had a good chance to win that and sort of threw it away. And then to get a win in that third test and fight, obviously, bat well and try their best in that fourth. I think it was actually, they deserve a bit of credit, Aussie, for staying in that series.
They'll be kicking themselves.
Oh, 100%. And they had a few things going against them with Paddy Cummins going away. And the problem, as you say, is like the only way to beat India is sort of the way that's also like impossible to beat them, because you're just not going to get a result in a pitch like that. So the best chance, as we sort of talked about, is like you get a dust bowl and it's basically a shootout. It's 200 plays 200 4 times.
I'd hate to see the state of a wicket if India went down 1-0 in the series.
Well, what I don't understand is I don't know why they cook them that much, because I feel like it brings the other side into it.
There's got to be a middle ground.
Yeah, if there's a middle ground, I think they're unbeatable. But I guess it's, they're obviously, they undercooked the fourth test and they overcooked the other three. So it's just like some of these batters must be like, fuck, any chance of some runs? Like this is, I mean, Kohli's like, look what you've done to my fucking average. Seriously. Like it's actually crazy because we talked about the Fab Four. Like if Kohli is still averaging, I didn't realize it was that high. If he was averaging like 54, we're having a different conversation.
Yeah, it's probably Kohli 1 because he'd probably have, he'd be into the 30s and his hundreds.
Yeah.
Oh, well, if they played on decks like that last one all round, he'd get 100 most tests.
Yeah, I know. We've got fucking Bubba Azam getting Rhodes prepared for him to boost his average. Let's move forward to the World Test Championship. We've got these two in the final at the Oval. Different conditions.
Yeah.
Who do you fancy?
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? Because I would say Aussie because they just feel like these conditions suit them a little bit better. Like I feel like I trust their seamers more than India's seamers. But then you look at India's seamers records and they're all pretty good. But then if I'm Mohammad Shami and I only bowl with a new ball and when it's going to reverse, I'd probably have a good record. So it's just I think I trust the Aussie seamers more, and I think it's a reverse of what we've just seen. Is in India, you have 3 really good spinners, you're going to win. And I think in England, if you have 3 elite seamers, that's where you're going to win. And I think Aussie have that in Cummins, Hazelwood, Stark, Bolland, if he plays, Cam Green. I think their seamers will just separate them over the 5 days. And I think that's where we beat India as well in that sort of series.
I think I'd probably do lean Australia as well. I think obviously in years gone by you'd back Australia by a mile, but the great strength of this Indian side has been how well they've sort of performed overseas as well as at home. So I'm sure it'll be close, but yeah, I just think if Australia are at full strength again and their full attack is there, they probably will be too strong. It's interesting because it's pretty close to the Ashes, isn't it?
Test before, isn't it?
What's going to mean more to some of these Aussie players? Like if you're carrying a wee niggle, are they going to not play this game and wanting to be all go for Test 1 of the Ashes? Because it's hard to know what will mean more to them to a lot of these guys.
No, they'll say the Ashes and stuff, but they've got depth in their bowling. I expect Scotty Boland to be an absolute menace in England. It's just going to be perfect for him. Yep. So I think Australia's batting's just ahead, and I think their mental fortitude is kind of underrated. And I think the fact that they've made that series as close as what it has after being dusted in the first two tests, for me, I think they're pretty clear the best test team in the world, like in all conditions. I think they've pushed India pretty close in their home conditions. They're obviously incredibly strong at home. I expect them to be pretty tough in England. Yeah, so I think I can't not pick Australia.
Yeah, I think sort of say what you want about some of their players in the past and if you hate or love them, but I don't think anyone ever denies sort of how tough they are and how up for the game they are. And I think that's just part of Australian cricket at this point, isn't it?
Righto, should we move on to a soft drink draft part 2?
Yeah, sounds good.
We won't mention what happened the first time, but basically we are doing a lottery system where Jacko, you get 50% of the 50% chance of the first pick. Lugsy, you're going to get a 33%, and I will have a 17% chance. Okay, here we go.
I couldn't work this out last time, by the way, but damn it, keep going.
Oh no!
It's an upset for the ages.
Hold on, not again.
Lugsy with the 1. I'm actually livid because that's me. That's my 1 gone.
Oh, guys are scrambling.
Righto, so Lugsy, you've got the first pick. Okay, so me and you, Jacko. Oh,
keep going.
You're kidding me.
Brilliant.
How have I given up? I should.
First to last, first to worst.
Unbelievable
Brilliant.
Stuff.
Actually, not a bad place after quality.
Yeah, it's not great.
Oh, I did a real howler with it last week, so.
Righto. Okay. Lugsy, you're on the clock.
Jordan, Brady, Ronaldo, Coke. Sort of what we're dealing with when it comes to this absolute elite beverage. I feel like I really deserve this, having drunk Coke since I was about 4 years old. I think one of its biggest fans. It's great in any occasion. Sometimes I love to go for a run and then not have a water, just so I'm completely at my most thirsty to have a can of fizz, can of Coke post. So, yeah, it'd be a pretty easy choice at number 1 for Cromarty, Coca-Cola.
That's tough. That is tough. I mean, it's well sold. Ronaldo doesn't like Coke, but that's all right.
That's not true. He had to do that for endorsements. He actually loves it. Told me.
Oh, too easy.
Actually a huge Coca-Cola fan.
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably snap up. I don't think any of the sort of straight alternatives match Coke. So the only thing I reckon that can go sort of toe-to-toe with it is vanilla Coke, the Redcliffe Dolphins. Yeah, I'll take VC at 2 just because I think there'll be some people out there who rate their vanilla Coke higher than their normal Coke. So yeah, vanilla Coke at 2, pretty easy pick.
I got 3 and 4 here, which is nice. So look, I'm going for a small market side like a New Orleans. They work hard. They draft around the fringes, and they're just a really good stable base. I'm going your West Coke and Raspberry. It's the number 1 Coke and Raspberry in the world, barring going to the pub.
100%.
Brilliant.
It's a real criticism I have of the Coca-Cola company. They just can't quite nut that Coke and Ras, can they?
Yeah, they've always been poor at it, which is bizarre.
Doesn't make any sense for me at all.
Because all they've got to do is get the sugariest, fakest raspberry cordial and chuck heaps of it in and it'll be perfect.
Yeah. Okay. Next up, I'm looking at what I've got on the board, and I can't have MJ, so I'm going to have what I think is the closest thing to MJ. I'm going to draft Kobe Bryant. It looks like Coke. It feels like Coke, but it just isn't quite Coke, but it's the closest thing to Coke, and it's going to get you 5 championships. Give me Coke, no sugar.
It's a good pick.
They're huge on that in the Virgin community.
It's
On the guy that should be talking.
The one guy single here.
And doing 0 dusting. reach out if you're a pod listener of the female thing. 18 to 45.
Yeah, those 2% of listeners.
Cast the net wide. Yeah, brilliant. I will, with my second pick, I'll go L&P. Absolute Kiwi staple. I think it's easily one of your better sort of lemonade variants if you're going away from your Coke. I've often quoted myself saying it's a top 3 liquid, and I'll stand by that, and I'll get that here in the second round.
Yeah, it's massive for the Kiwis. So what? Sorry, we've done this a million times. Do I have my next 2 now?
Yeah, 2 in a row.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Because I was gonna, sort of thinking I was gonna have to let you one of you boys have one of the big boys just to stick true to myself. But I'll go with Sparkling Duet.
Brilliant.
a real underrated beverage. Brilliant in the Kiwi summer. Probably doesn't get enough love because it doesn't often, you don't see it as much in the smaller forms. But a great 1.5 drink, and yeah, just a beautiful part of summer. And then there's a part of me, there's a few ways I could go. From those sort of top few that we've already got, they all become much of a muchness to me, but I still think it's another big market player, isn't it? It's got LeBron on board as a sponsor. It's on a hot day, it's still a pretty beautiful beverage. So I'll go one of the heavy hitters. I'll go Sprite for my last pick.
Oh, that's a good pick.
It's a good get.
It's a really good threesome there. It's a really good big three. Tough to compete.
We've got Sprite, Sparkling Duet, and just Coke. Yeah, that's very good. Yeah, number 3 for me. Now this is tough because, as you said, they all sort of drop off a bit here. But I'm going to go and I really think the Colonel lost a step when it went to the Cokes. Don't get me wrong; it was good having Coke and raspberry or sort of these options here at the Colonel. But I used to love Mountain Dew. It just hits so good paired with some Colonel, and just a great beverage on its own. So I think I'll go Mountain Dew with my third pick.
That's pretty good. No sign of Bundaberg lemon and lime, which is interesting.
That would go top 3, just quiet.
Not a lot on the board. I'm looking, if I wanted some UK votes, I'm looking at like your Vimtos, your grape soda's pretty good. Your Fanta's another good option, but I'm going to risk it. You got to risk it when you're the third pick. I'm going one of my faves when I was a wee kid, and this has to be strictly like a budget version. I'm going ice cream soda.
Oh, yeah. I love this.
It's a great pick.
Which is something I used to love when I was a kid. Grew out of it, but it really takes me back there. So, I did the best with the hand I was dealt, but it's going to be tough to take down Lugsy.
Dude, it did a hell of a lot better than the last bloke that drafted 3 in one of these drafts.
I think, unfortunately, you just sort of grow out of buying the budget brand, don't you? When you're a youngster, you don't really care, and you get your 60 cents together, you go down and get a small ice cream soda, and you don't really care who sees you. But as a grown man, it's just a touch embarrassing. Yeah,
so I should be doing better. I should be doing better in life. I need to buy more expensive soft drinks.
Yeah, 100%. Nothing used to bring fizz to a birthday party than seeing the tray of budget either. Those little tray of mini budget softies. You knew it was in for a good birthday party if one of those bad boys was there.
How good's if you only see 10 of your mates there and you're like, yeah, we're good for a couple each year. Hopefully one of the parents is a bit strict, doesn't allow their kids to have a fizz yet, and you get you're up to 3 or 4 sometimes.
Yeah, you're gonna go at every flavour. Maybe double back on your favourite.
How many rounds do you think we need to go before that green flavour gets picked?
I was just thinking about lime.
Yeah, all of them.
It was always the last pick, though. Always the last pick.
I tell you what, the orange wasn't great either.
Nah.
Raspberry wasn't too bad, especially if you trade with your mate and you do half raspberry, half cola.
Yeah, brilliant. Smart. Raspberry underrated, just a straight raspberry fizzy.
Tell you what used to grind my gears is when a parent would take one of them.
Yeah. You've got your beers in the cooler, thanks.
Yeah.
That's poor. That is poor. Thanks to Lugsy and Jacko. Thank you to Piranha. Check out our Patreon if you like our stuff. Leave us a rating and review. But as always, thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch you next week.
Cheers, mate.
Thanks, mate.